What's your favorite Beatles bass line?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I think I'd have to say I really like that fuzz sound, starting around the Rubber Soul era.
Yeah, I hear you. It's got such a unique growl. Do you know how that fuzz sound was actually created?
I'm not 100% sure, but I have a feeling you're about to tell me.
Well, it all starts with this little box, the Gibson Maestro Fuzz-Tone FZ-1.
The original fuzz pedal.
The one that started it all. Back in 1962, it cost $40, which is something like $400 today.
So not cheap, but not impossible for a serious musician.
Exactly.
Right.
But the price wasn't the problem. The problem was what Gibson thought people would use it for. It was designed to make guitars sound like, get this, tubas and trombones.
It sounds like a joke, but it's completely true. They were trying to help guitar players fit into, I guess, brass bands. It's bizarre.
But the sound itself didn't even come from Gibson trying to build a tuba simulator. It was a complete accident.
A very happy accident, yeah. It started in a Nashville studio back in 1960.
Right.
The session was for a Marty Robbins ballad, Don't Worry, and the bassist, Grady Martin, was plugged into a mixing console that had a faulty transformer.
And usually that would be a disaster. You'd stop the take.
Of course, distortion meant failure. But on his solo, the broken part made his bass buzz and growl in this really unique way. And the engineer, a guy named Glenn Snoddy, he heard it and he kept it.
He knew he had something.
He did. He actually saved the broken transformer, figured out how to recreate that sound with a circuit, and then he sold the whole idea to Gibson.
So Gibson markets this amazing, gritty new sound as a way for banjo players to sound like a trombone.
And you can guess how well that went over. Guitarists did not want to sound like tubas.
Not at all. They made about 5,000 of them in 1962.
Yeah.
And in 1963, they sold exactly zero.
Zero. It was a total flop. The Maestro Fuzz-Tone was basically gathering dust in warehouses.
It was dead in the water. Until 1965, and a certain band from London.
Enter the Rolling Stones. This is the moment everything changes for fuzz.
We all know the riff, the opening to I Can't Get No Satisfaction.
That's the Maestro Fuzz-Tone. But the funny thing is, Keith Richards didn't even want it on the record.
He hated it, right?
He did. He actually wrote that riff thinking it would be played by a horn section, like something on a Stax record.
So the fuzz guitar was just a placeholder.
Just a scratch track. It was only meant to be a guide for the horn players they were supposed to bring in later. But their producer, Andrew Loog Oldham, he heard it.
And he knew.
He insisted they kept the fuzzy guitar. He knew that sound would cut through everything on the radio. Keith fought him on it, but Oldham won.
And the song becomes a monster hit. The pedal goes from selling 0 units to being completely sold out everywhere. The entire effects pedal industry is basically born in that moment.
And what's really fascinating is that the Stones get all the credit for breaking that sound, but the Beatles were actually way ahead of them.
Oh, way ahead.
They bought a Maestro Fuzz-Tone in London in 1963, 2 years before Satisfaction.
So they had the secret weapon 2 years early. Why didn't we hear it on, say, A Hard Day's Night?
Well, it wasn't for lack of trying. We've seen photos from the sessions for She Loves You where George has it plugged in. John Lennon was using it on Don't Bother Me.
So what happened?
The gatekeepers happened. Their producer, George Martin.
Ah.
You have to remember, Martin came from classical and comedy records. To him, distortion wasn't an effect. It was an error. It was noise.
So he just vetoed it.
He did. He wouldn't let it on the final mix. The Beatles had the sound, but Martin kept it locked in the box.
Until they started to get more control in the studio. Which brings us to 1965 and the Rubber Soul sessions.
This is the breakthrough. They're racing to finish the album. The creativity is just off the charts. And on George's song, Think for Yourself, the fuzz finally makes it to the tape.
And not on a guitar.
On the bass. This is a huge moment. It's the first time in history a bass guitar was recorded through a fuzz box.
And Paul wasn't even using his famous violin bass for this, was he?
No, he used his Rickenbacker 4001S, which has a much brighter, more aggressive tone, and he ran it through a different pedal, a British one called a tone bender.
Which gave it that incredible sound. I love the famous description of it.
What's that?
The snarls of an enraged schnauzer snapping and striking at its lead.
That's perfect. It's so angry. And the way they recorded it was brilliant. They knew the fuzz would kill the low end, so they recorded 2 bass lines.
So one clean track for the foundation.
And then a second overdub track with the fuzz bass playing more like guitar. It perfectly matched the vitriolic mood of George's lyrics. The distortion became the emotion.
And once that door was open, it never closed again. George Harrison really started using it.
Oh, yeah. On Revolver and then Sgt. Pepper, fuzz is all over the place. Think about Taxman.
That crunchy, driving rhythm guitar.
That's George. But here's a great piece of trivia. The solo on Taxman, that wild, fast, kind of Indian-sounding solo.
That had to be George.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? It was actually Paul.
No way. Paul played that solo.
He did. He just grabbed the guitar and ripped it out. It's one of their greatest solos. Later on, they were even using amps that had fuzz built right in, like the Vox Conqueror on Hey Bulldog.
So what was it about those old pedals, technically, that made them so special?
It came down to a component called germanium transistors.
Right.
These old units used 3 of them, and they were really organic. They reacted to how hard you played. But the catch was they were incredibly sensitive to temperature.
So the sound would just change on its own.
Completely. If the room got warmer, the fuzz would sound different. Sometimes they'd just stop working. They were unpredictable, but that's what gave them that magic, that unstable snarl you hear on those records.
Well, thanks for joining us today. Whenever you feel like knowing more about the Beatles, visit us at BeatlesRewind.com. It's the Beatles, all day, every day, 8 days a week. Cass will do it again tomorrow.
Looking forward to it.
Until next time, when you listen.
Your mind conducts its own symphony.